Soon we are going to have the craziest events in Rise of Kingdoms history, and that is Commander Swap. The game is going to allow you to select 2 commanders, swap their levels, star levels, and also, most importantly, their skill levels. Here's a quick example. My Ragnar is 3111, level 32. My William Wallace, on the other hand, level 60, expertise. So if I select William Wallace and Ragnar and swap them, Ragnar is going to become level 60 expertise and William Wallace is going to become level 32 with 3111 skill configuration. But the thing that we need to keep in mind is that we don't know the cost and we don't know the restrictions. That's why I need to start with a few disclaimers. Number one, if you haven't watched my previous video where I speculated about these restrictions, make sure to go ahead and check it. And one of those restrictions, I said there is a possibility that this whole swap system can only be done in the same troop type, meaning that you can only swap, let's say, 2 infantry commanders, 2 cavalry, or 2 archers. And I know for some people that would suck, but it is what it is. And the other thing that we don't know is, of course, the cost. Most likely, not most likely, I'm 100% sure that it's going to cost gems, not real money. Maybe they might release a bundle and, let's say, give you one more chance if you buy the bundle to swap a commander. But other than that, I think it is going to 100% cost us gems. But the thing is, though, since it's a huge thing, let's say if you have an expertise Genghis Khan that you haven't been using for probably years, you can just swap him and get whole cubing instead, get Nevsky instead. That would be incredible for your account. But that's why the cost could be 10,000 gems or 50,000 gems. We don't know. That's the second thing that you need to keep in mind. And also the third thing, they said that every character can only do it twice. So regardless of your number of gems, you cannot just go ahead and swap like 5 or 6 different commanders. You only have 2 chances. And that's why, in my opinion, you should not, just because we are having a swap event, you should not, let's say you are in the early KVKs, go ahead and expertise Richard or spend your sculptures on gold key commanders. You shouldn't do that. Because as I said, you will only get 2 chances and it will cost something. There's going to be a cost. It's not free. So there is no reason for you to go ahead and invest those late game useless early game commanders. Yes, if you want to, you can still go ahead and invest on Alexander the Great, just because he works incredibly well with Liu Che. So he is still usable in the late game, but don't go ahead and spend your sculptures on random commanders just because we are going to have a swap event. Please avoid it. Now, since we are looking at Liu Che, let's start our video with infantry, then we'll go to cavalry and archers. We are going to discuss the best commanders that worth your swaps, because remember, only 2 chances, so you definitely don't want to waste them. And there are some quote-unquote bait commanders that you may mess up your swaps. Now, the infantry, in my opinion, is quite simple. I would say Liu Che is still the best infantry commander in the game, and if you're playing with an infantry march, you must have this guy. I would say that there are 2 other alternatives that maybe you are considering, and that will be Ragnar Lothbrok and Scipio Africanus. I don't think that many people do consider William Wallace. I mean, I do have him and I love him. I think he works so great with Liu Che, but he's more like a niche commander. Let's say if they release a smite version of Scipio with AoE damage and massive debuffs, instantly my William Wallace will get benched. That's the downside of William Wallace. But Liu Che, you don't have to have William Wallace. He works so well with Alexander the Great. He works so well with Scipio, Prime Scipio. So Liu Che is extremely strong, extremely versatile. In my opinion, 100% my number 1 choice. The reason I would say Scipio may not be the best choice is because of 2 reasons. Number 1, when you are using your swaps, I think you must spend them on must expertise commanders. Looking at Liu Che, for example, I think he's 100% must expertise just because of this extra attack. It gives you rage, it can proc other things, blah blah blah, so he is a must expertise. However, Scipio works still really good at 5551. So in my opinion, he is not a must max. And if you take a look at his expertise, the second portion is their troop gains rage 30% faster if its current target is silence. When we're talking about silence in Rise of Kingdoms, we immediately think about Guan Yu. However, with the release of Ragnar Lothbrok, the number of Guan Yus on the field, you can see it decreased quite a bit. So I wouldn't even say that this expertise is just crazy. No, it is of course good to have, but it's not as important as, let's say, Liu Che's expertise. And if you take a look at the other alternative, which is Prime Ragnar Lothbrok, yes, he is extremely strong, he has insane amount of AoE damage and all that. However, remember, we did get a special event for Ragnar. To me, this means there might be more events coming that we can get extra Ragnar sculptures, and because of that, I would say he is not the best option. Definitely not better than Liu Che in my opinion. And on top of that, I think Ragnar heavily requires skill damage commander, while Liu Che is a smite damage commander. Yes, because of his debuff, Scipio still works so good with Liu Che, or Alexander the Great, because of this second skill, whenever their troop launches a basic attack, it has a 10% chance to deal extra damage, and this instant damage chance can get increased with Liu Che's expertise, this one extra combo attack. So even though these two are also skill damage commanders, they still work really good with Liu Che, but Ragnar, I don't think so. I don't think he's the best option. So for infantry, I would say 100% Liu Che is the best commander to swap for. Now let's move on to cavalry. It is going to be a little bit tricky because number one, we are going to have new cavalry commanders coming out soon. But the problem is, first, we don't know if we're going to get these commanders before the swap event. So if we get them after the swap event, it doesn't even matter. However, even if we get them before the swap event and we wait for the swap for the latest cavalry commander, we don't even know if we will be able to use those latest gen commanders to swap for, because cavalry is going to be the 10th generation of commanders, and maybe they're going to only restrict it until the 9th generation. You won't be able to use the swap event for 10th generation commanders. That is definitely a possibility. So the first thing, we don't know if we're going to have those cavalry commanders before the swap event. And the second one, we don't even know if we'll be able to use them. Now, the second problem is, Joan of Arc, in my opinion, is your safest bet right now. Because of her AoE, her double active skill and all that, she is the safest one. But the problem with Joan is very similar to CPO. She also works extremely well, even better than CPO, with low investment. And remember what I said, when you are using your swap, you want to use it for a must expertise commander, and Joan of Arc, even though she is your safest investment alternative for cavalry, she's definitely not a must expertise. I don't think I will ever expertise her. 5-5-1-5, she's just so perfect. So if we're not going to swap for Joan, which cavalry commander we should select? Well, as you can see, I selected Hokubing. I mean, I selected to expertise him, but let's say if there was a swap event and I didn't have Hokubing expertise, I was going to select him. So the only two options are either Nevsky or QB. In my opinion, this is like, if you are looking for the highest amount of damage, QB Joan is going to be your best bet. But if you're looking for more tankiness, more durability on the field, if you think that's what you are lacking, I would go with Alexander Nevsky instead of Hokubing. But Hokubing is newer, Hokubing is way more flashy. Yes, he doesn't have as much stats as Alexander Nevsky, but he is very different. He fires off his skills so fast. He has the healing, which can be abused. After you understand how to play with Hokubing, you can certainly abuse this healing, and after, let's say, 1 hour of fighting, his march could still be at max HP, which is crazy, and also a bunch of extra skill damage increase. So my choice was QB and Joan, but you can certainly go with Alexander Nevsky as well. And I guess the easiest one is going to be to answer is going to be archers. 100%, 1000% go with Zhuge Liang. But yes, we do also have a bot. The thing about Hermann Prime is that he is also so good. Not as good as Zhuge Liang, but still so good. So you might be thinking, I already do have Zhuge Liang expertise, so should I go for Hermann? Ziel Hermann is the best archer march in the game right now, but I don't think you should go Hermann. Just because, similar to Liu Che, similar to Joan of Arc, I think he is so good at 5-5-5-1, and a lot of archer players are saying that yes, his expertise is good, but it takes so long for us to get extra value from the expertise. So a 5-5-5-1 Hermann Prime, until you have a lot of extra sculptures, is certainly very usable on the field. So instead of Hermann Prime, if you think about going up to 2 archer marches, because in this scenario you have Zhuge Liang expertise, if you don't, this is your guy. Go ahead and swap for Zhuge Liang, expertise him, one of the most busted commanders in the game. But if he's expertise and if you plan to go up to 2 archer marches, I would say get Hermann to 5-5-5-1 with your regular sculptures. And then for your second march, it is going to be either Ashe or Shajar, because at this moment, the best archer march, again, I have not played with an archer march on this account, but with my discussions with archer players, the best second archer march, at least most of them, are using Shajar primary with Ashurbanipal secondary. And between the two, Shajar is a Wheel of Fortune commander and Ashe can only be obtained from MGE if there is no restriction for MGE commanders, because they might say, yo, you can only swap MGE commanders with other MGEs or Wheel commanders with other Wheel commanders, and then no, it's not going to be a viable option for you. But if there is no restriction like that, I would say go ahead and swap for the MGE commander instead of the Wheel commander, just because it is way easier to get sculptures from the Wheel of Fortune compared to MGE. So this, in my opinion, I think the best commanders, the best legendary commanders that you should swap for. And again, before we finish, if you are swapping for a commander, make sure that that commander is a must expertise, because in my opinion, we don't have unlimited sculptures, right? So if a commander, a legendary one, is already so good with low investment, I would say you are wasting your swaps. Instead, go for the must expertise ones. That is like a prime example. Joan, 5-5-1-5, only 390 sculptures, and she is so good. But Liu Che is a must expertise. His true power lies within his active skill and also his expertise. So definitely Liu Che is a perfect swap, but I think Joan, for example, is not. I'll see you guys on the next Rise of Kingdoms video. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.